Good morning, all of you. I hope you all are well and following the COVID precaution. Now, in the previous video, I have discussed you about the physical property of the metal, that is the metallic luster. Okay. Now we will discuss another properties of metal in detail. Okay. I hope you remember the physical property metallic luster. If still you have any confusion regarding any topic, you can ask me. Okay. Next, we will discuss about the hardness. Now, metals generally are hard. Okay. However, the hardness might vary from one metal to another. One metal might be more hard. Some other metal might be quite soft. Okay. But when it is compared to non-metal, they are hard. So let us take some example. Now you will observe that there are metals like sodium. If you consider metal like sodium, you see that they are comparatively soft when compared to other metals like iron, copper, aluminium, magnesium. So if you look at these metals, they are hard compared to sodium, which is kind of soft. Okay, so what kind of activity you can do? Maybe you can take one of these metal and you just try to break it with the help of a knife. Okay, and what you see that you are not able to do that because metals are quite hard. But if you try to do the same experiment with a piece of sodium, in that case you will see that you will be able to cut the piece of sodium, which okay, because it is comparatively softer than iron, copper, aluminum and all. So I think in general, whatever physical properties we are going to talk about now, that doesn't mean that all the metals are going to have the same property. There are exceptions to it. There are variation also as far as our hardness is considered. Okay, because all metals are not hard. If I am comparing sodium is also a metal, but it is not equally hard as like a iron. Okay, and that is the reason why substances are not classified as a metal and non-metal based on their physical properties, because there are too many exceptions. There are a lot of variation to it. Therefore, the definition of metal and non-metal is somebody who has a tendency to lose electron will be classified as metals. The next property is malleability. So what is malleability? Now this is the property by which metals can be beaten into thin sheets. Now what do we mean by that? What do we mean by thin sheet? Have you ever used an aluminium foil? I think that this is already I have explained in the previous video, but still I am explaining this again because I want to cover all the physical properties together. Okay, so the foil which is used for packing your boxes. So how do you get such thin sheets from a aluminum? Because these are made up of aluminium, hard metal like aluminium. So that shows that aluminium has a property that it can actually be beaten into thin sheets. And how do you beat it? Just take a small let's take a small example. Let's take any metal object, maybe iron nail, a small piece of an aluminium if you have in your house, and you start beating it with the help of the hammer. Okay, now when you repeatedly beating it with the hammer, what do you see? What you will going to see is that metal changes its shape. Sorry, as you beat it, it tend to become deformed in that portion. So basically, on beating the metals, they are able to change their shapes. Okay, so when you vigorously beat it, it might be turned into thin sheet, and that is how it happens in case of aluminium. Now, not only aluminium foil is just one example. So aluminium foil is just one example which shows that the properties of malleability. Okay, now another example could be the silver foil. If you go to the sweet shop, you see a lot of sweets have a thin silver foil over it. Okay, it is also obtained from silver. Silver metal is actually beaten into thin sheets, and that's how we get it. So this shows that this property is is present exclusively in metal. So if you like to compare or look at the similar property in case of non-metal, you will see that they do not have this property. Now when we talk about non-metal, we will talk about each of these property, I'm sure, in a proper way. So this property can be seen in all the metals almost. However, gold and silver are the most malleable metals, and that is why, because of this flexibility, they are used. So because of this much of flexibility, they are used to design so many jewelries of different shape and designs, right? So if you look at the gold necklace and a bangle, so they all have a different design because of this property. So the next property of metal is ductility. Now it is also little similar to that malleability, but in this case it is the ability of metals to be drawn into thin wires. Now when we talk about malleability, we were talking about thin sheets, okay, like the aluminium sheet. But when we say wires, it is like you can say the wires for your electricity, the copper wires, because it means it is made up of copper, and copper has been drawn into thin wire. So that property of copper is called ductility. So you would have seen copper wires or aluminium wires. In fact, gold, silver, all of them can be drawn into thin wires. You would be surprised to know that a wire of 2 kilometer length can be drawn from 1 gram of gold. So if you make 1 gram gold, taking that 1 gram gold, you can draw it to form wire which is 2 kilometer in length. It's just imagine how long it is going to be. Yes, so that is why gold is said to be the most ductile metal. So gold has highest malleability, gold has highest ductility. That is why it is used for designing ornaments. Copper wires are also used for wiring purposes in terms of carrying electricity. Now as I said, these metals are also very good conductors. So there are two advantages of using copper wire. One, it can be drawn into wires. Second, it can conduct electricity. Aluminium wire also used for fencing and winding things, fencing field or fencing the boundaries. For those purposes, aluminium wires are commonly used. The next property is metals are very good conductors of heat. That is why it allows heat to pass through them. Just think of the utensil and you will understand it all. All the cooking utensils are made up of metals. For example, you would see aluminium utensils. You would also see the utensils made up of steel. So what is steel? So it is nothing but it contains, if you look at the composition of steel, it contains mostly iron with small amount of carbon. And what is iron? Iron is a metal. Okay. However, carbon is a non-metal but still majorly contain iron. Okay. So that makes steel suitable for cooking purposes. In fact, aluminium utensils are also found and they are also very suitable for cooking. The non-stick utensils which you see these days, non-stick fry pan, non-stick bowls and etc. So these non-stick utensils are also made up of metals. It is just that they have Teflon coating on their top, but otherwise they are also made up of metals. So since they are a good conductor of heat, so they are able to do, when you put your utensil over fire, what happens? The utensils doesn't burn, it doesn't melt, because it is able to conduct the heat to the object or to the food item which is placed in the utensil for cooking. So that's how it is allowing the heat to get conducted and it is allowing the heat to reach the food item, and that is how it helps in cooking. The next property is high melting point. Metals also have a high melting and boiling point, and that is why even when they are heated, they do not melt easily or they do not start boiling. So that is also one advantage why metal utensils are used for cooking. So the same thing here also, when you want to prepare food, so you keep the food items, maybe vegetables, everything in the utensil, and you put it on the fire. Now if if the vessel have a low melting point, then it would have melted on its own. That is why metals metal are have a higher melting point, and the metal which have a highest melting point is tungsten, and it is used in the filaments of bulb. So the bulb, inside the bulb there is a wire in a curve form, that is a filament, and it is made up of tungsten. So whenever you switch on the bulb glows. That is, electric current passes through the bulb. Now such a huge amount of current reaches the bulb, so it produces a huge amount of heat and light energy. So if the metal has a low melting point, then what will happen? It start melting at high temperature. So we need a metal which has a highest melting point, so that it doesn't melt, because the temperature inside the bulb is very, very high. So that is the purpose through which the tungsten has been placed over there. Now sodium and potassium are having a very low melting point. That is why they are not used in such kind of things. They start to melt very easily. So as you said, as soon as you heat them in a little bit, it make them lot reactive. That is why sodium, if you bring fire near sodium or you keep it a little high temperature, there are the chances that the sodium might catch fire. So sodium and potassium have very low melting point. Now metals are also very good conductor of electricity. They are not only conductive, they also conduct electricity, and that is why we see metals have been used for all sort of electricity connection in our home. So if you want to see for yourself, what do? You try to take a wire, and so take any spare wire, and what you do, just try to uproot the upper plastic covering of the wire, because it is made up of plastic, okay, plastic covering on top. So this is the plastic covering, which may be red, blue, green or any other color, but inside what you will see is metal. So inside actually you see the metal. It could be a copper wire, it could be any other metal, okay. So these metals, they are a very good conductor of electricity, and they allow electricity to pass through them, and that is why they are used for all these kind of electricity related wiring purposes. So but at the same time, why do you have this kind of covering, plastic or any other non-conductor? For our safety, because if wire is a good conductor of electricity, that means the electricity is always passing through the wire, and if you touch the wire, you get an electric shock. So to protect ourselves from electric shock, what is done is the metal is protected with the help of another layer, outer layer, and that outer layer is made up of mostly plastic, because plastic are poor conductor of electricity, so that we do not get shock. So that's how we can say that metals are good conductors of electricity. Now, so knowing this, we also look some of the electric safety measure which we have to take, because we know that the metals are good conductors. So some of the electric measures are electrical outlet safety cap, reducing risk of electrical shock. So you would have seen or observed that the children always have a tendency to insert their finger into these outlets, okay. So what is there inside the outlets? Inside the outlets you will have a lot of wires carrying current. So whenever you try to touch the the wire, you get an electric shock. So in order to prevent that, what is done is, there is a safety caps available which look like this. So these are the safety caps, and these are made up of poor conductor of electricity, like plastics. Mostly they are made up of plastic. So what do? You just insert these into these holes, so the children cannot see the holes and they cannot insert their finger. So these are some of the measures. Also seen that electricians, when they are doing some sort of repair or electric poles or something, so they always prefer wearing the gloves. So these gloves are made up of mostly rubber or something which is a poor conductor of electricity, so that they do not get electric shock. So anything which is a good conductor of electricity, the current will be flowing through it, so your chances of getting a shock if you touch them is very high. So these are some of the measures which are taken in order to protect ourselves from electric shock. Another important property of metals are that they are sonorous. What do we mean by sonorous? They produce the ringing sound. Now, have you ever have heard the sound of your school bell with concentration? So now we are using the electric bell, but before that we were just using that bell with a when it repeatedly keeps coming. The auntie used to bell the ring. Okay, so it was also the strong sound. So this type of strong sound is produced by the metals only. So if you want, you can have the comparison between the metal and a wood, because wood is a non-metal, and you will see that metal produces more sound. For example, you take your cutlery from your kitchen, spoon, forks or knife, anything, and when you strike to each other, you get some sort of ringing sound, some sort of music, right? Why? Because they are all made up of metals. Where if you take some coins and you just try to mix them with each other, take them from one hand to another hand, you hear some sound. So these type of sounds are produced only by metals. On the other hand, if you, instead of taking metal object, if you are taking a wooden table, on the wooden table, if you just strike it, the sound that will be produced, it's not a ringing sound. It is some different. It is to be some different from that of a ringing sound. So the metals produces the sound. It's more like a ringing sound. Okay. Now another important property is that the metals have very high density. You can actually feel that metals are very heavy. Let us suppose that you have to carry a box, which is a plastic box, and at the second scenario you have to carry a box which is an iron box. So which will be more heavy? Iron definitely will be more heavy, and the density in case of metal is also very high. More density means the molecules or the atoms, they are more densely packed to each other. They are more more heavy. Okay. Iridium and osmium, they have the highest density. So these are the metals which have highest density. On the other hand, the lithium has the lowest density. So now we have discussed about the physical properties of matter. We saw that the metals are malleable, ductile, sonorous, with high density, good conductors of heat. So now let us talk about non-metal. So first we will start with the definition of non-metal. So these are those substances which are electronegative in nature. That is just the opposite of matters. So here they do not have the tendency to lose electron, rather they gain electron. Okay. So whenever it is metals, you can say that metals are like they believe in giving. They release electrons, whereas the non-metal, the takers, they take the electrons, they gain the electrons. So example of non-metals are carbon, sulfur, iodine, oxygen, hydrogen, etc. If you see, most of the non-metals, they are either solid or gases. However, there are some exceptions which are liquid also, like bromine. So bromine is one such non-metal which is liquid. So in non-metal, what happen is, inside the atom, inside the substance, you see a number of electrons and protons. In this case, they want to get an addition electrons. So addition electron come in, and therefore overall the substance become electronegative in nature, because there are more negatively charged particles. So here you see it take additional negative charge, therefore overall become negative. So that is why they are electronegative in nature. So these are non-metals. So I have already explained you. Now the question is, why do you study non-metal? Where do we use them? Now again, the uses of non-metal is also very huge. We cannot survive without non-metal. If you think of a non-metal, if you think of the gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide, I hope the screen is visible to you. Now oxygen and carbon dioxide, they are non-metal and they are very useful to us. Oxygen is so very useful to us. Look at the plants. Plants take in carbon dioxide, okay, during the process of photosynthesis, and they give out oxygen. Now without these two gases, plants cannot survive, and this oxygen is again taken in by the animals, including the human being, okay, and we give out carbon dioxide. So these non-metals help us to survive. So the survival of life depend on the existence of these non-metals. Not only that, if you look at the rocket, the combustion of fuel needs oxygen. Okay, so oxygen again is a non-metal. You look at the composition of air. Air contains 17% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen. So nitrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide are all these non-metals together form air around us. Okay. So not only this, if you see these gases like nitrogen and oxygen, carbon dioxide, they not only form the atmosphere, nitrogen is also very important for the growth and development of plants. Apart from that, we also have some fuels which are excellent sources of energy. For example, coal. So what is coal? Coal is made up of carbon. And what is carbon? Carbon is again a non-metal. So coal is again an excellent fuel and a source of energy. We have already studied about this in our previous lesson, that there are so many different uses of coal. Again, if you talk about diamond, it is also one form of carbon, and the diamond is used for making a lot of jewelries. Graphite, which is present in the batteries or the pencil leads, that also contain carbon, which again are non-metal. The neon lights which you see in the shops and in the disc or in the streets, so these are also made up of neon, which is again a non-metal. In fact, there are non-metals like hydrogen and helium which are present inside the balloons or the gas balloons, which just when you leave it, it just goes up high in the air. So it contains hydrogen or helium. They are also non-metal. Okay. So there are so much. So therefore you see that there are so much things, so much non-metal around us. Okay. So all these chlorine, neon, hydrogen, helium, carbon, these are all example of non-metals. Not only that, in fact, non-metals are also used in a lot of antiseptics, fertilizers, like iodine is an antiseptic which is present in salt, the iodized salt. Iodine is also useful in preparation of a lot of antiseptics, and that's how we see that even non-metal are also used in our day-to-day life. In fact, we do not survive without non-metals. Okay, it is also, so that's how these are very useful in our day-to-day life. In fact, forget about this. We are surviving because of non-metal like oxygen, carbon. Life does not exist without this. So it is equally important to talk and to discuss about non-metal as well. So again, in a very similar way, we will start with the history of non-metals. Non-metals, the only non-metals which was discovered during the prehistoric time was carbon. Now that is quite surprising, right? You remember when we talk about the history of metal, we saw that the gold was the first one to be discovered in 6000 BC. But gold was not the only one. There were many other other metals, okay, which was discovered during the BCs. So during the prehistoric time, lot of metal was discovered. But compared to that, if I am talking about non-metal, so carbon was the only non-metal which was discovered during the prehistoric time, and it was discovered in the form of coal. Now one reason behind this is, when you talk about metals, they are all solid. You can actually see them. So discovering them is easier when compared to non-metal, which is mostly in the gaseous form. So you really cannot just imagine, okay, carbon is present over here, oxygen is present over here, because they are in gaseous form. So it is little difficult to find or to prove their existence. Okay, but however, over a period of time, gradually other non-metal also discovered. The next one to be discovered was phosphorus, which is during the 13th centuries, and there was a long gap between the discovery of carbon and phosphorus. Now, when phosphorus was discovered, it is mostly used in explosives. Why? Because of its reactive nature. So we will talk about all that later on. Next was oxygen, which was discovered in 1774. So oxygen is something which is so much important, right? It is present in our atmosphere, in the air. The air is composed of almost 21% oxygen. Earth has almost 50% oxygen, because when you talk about ocean, it also contains water, and water is oxygen and hydrogen. So oxygen being such a important things, and it is discovered very recently, because 1774 is not very long ago. It is discovered quite recently. Okay, then gradually all other non-metals were discovered, like nitrogen, chlorine, sulfur, hydrogen, and that's how the non-metal were gradually discovered. So not now, but we will discuss the physical properties of non-metal in a detailed manner in the next part. Okay, in the next in the next video. Okay, thank you, students. If you have any confusion, you can ask me. I hope whatever I have explained to you in the video, you are able to understand. Still, if you have any confusion, you can ask me again in a group or in a Zoom class. Thank you, students.